First contact and fatal mistakes. The quantum engines of the research vessel Artemis hummed quietly as Dr. Naomi Winter reviewed the preliminary scans of planet LV-789. Her dark eyes narrowed at the contradictory readings flooding her holoscreen. Something wasn't adding up. Dr. Winter, the ship's AI, Perseus, spoke with its characteristic calm. I'm detecting significant discrepancies between the Galactic Council's classification data and our current atmospheric readings. Show me, Naomi commanded, brushing aside a stray lock of silver-streaked black hair. The main display lit up with a complex array of environmental data that made her blood run cold. This can't be right. Perseus, verify these readings. Readings verified and triple-checked, Doctor. The atmosphere contains lethal levels of fluorine gas, and surface temperatures average 50 degrees Celsius. These conditions are inconsistent with a Class 3 habitable world classification. Dr. Rajesh Patel, the team's geologist, glanced up from his own readings. The mineral composition is extraordinary. I've never seen concentrations like these. The rare earth elements alone could fund a small empire. Well, that explains the creative classification, muttered Dr. Yuki Tanaka, their xenobiologist, as she suited up in her environmental gear. Someone wanted to keep other survey teams away. The fourth member of their team, Dr. Omar Hassan, their atmospheric specialist, was already running additional scans. The atmospheric pressure is twice what was reported. Even with our enhanced suits, we'll only have 4 hours of safe exposure time. Naomi made her decision. Perseus, log an official protest with the Galactic Science Council regarding the planet's classification. This is clearly a Class 1 Deathworld, possibly even Class 0. Logging protest, Perseus confirmed. Though I feel compelled to point out that our survival probability drops to 32% if we proceed with the landing. Noted, Naomi replied, securing her helmet. But someone went to a lot of trouble to hide this planet's true nature, and I want to know why. The Artemis descended through layers of toxic clouds, its shield straining against the corrosive atmosphere. As they broke through the cloud cover, the landscape below left them speechless. Crystalline formations jutted from the ground like massive sword blades, their surfaces reflecting the orange sunlight in dazzling patterns. Between these formations, something that resembled vegetation but gleamed with metallic properties swayed in the caustic winds. Those aren't plants, Yuki breathed, her scientific curiosity overwhelming her caution. They're some form of silicon-based life. The whole ecosystem must have evolved to thrive in these conditions. The ship's sensors suddenly blared a warning. Multiple fast-moving life forms detected, Perseus announced. They appear to be using the crystalline formations for cover. Based on their movement patterns, I calculate a 97% probability that they are apex predators. How fast? Omar asked, his voice tense. Faster than you can run, Perseus replied. And their body temperature suggests a metabolism that would require significant caloric intake. In other words, they're hungry. As if to emphasize Perseus's point, something massive leaped from behind a crystal formation, its body a horrifying fusion of chitinous armor and crystalline growths. The creature's 6 legs ended in diamond-hard claws, and its elongated head housed multiple rows of crystalline teeth. Well, Naomi said, her voice steadied despite the situation, I think we've found why the Council's previous survey teams never returned. Perseus, deploy the defensive shields and find us a secure landing zone. Preferably somewhere those things can't reach us. Calculating, Perseus responded. Though I feel obligated to mention that these creatures appear to be able to scale vertical surfaces. Our options for secure locations are rather limited. The team watched as more of the creatures emerged from hiding, their crystalline components catching the light and creating a beautiful but terrifying display. They moved with an intelligence that suggested they were far more than simple predators. They're coordinating, Yuki observed, her scientific detachment warring with survival instinct. Look at their movement patterns. This isn't just pack hunting behavior. They're attempting to herd us toward that larger formation to the north. Perseus, Naomi commanded, scan that formation. What are we looking at? The AI was silent for a moment. The formation appears to be hollow, Doctor. I'm detecting artificial modifications. Someone, or something, has been here before us. Underground revelations. The crystalline structure looming before them cast prismatic shadows across the Artemis's hull as Naomi made the call that would either save or doom them all. Perseus, take us in. If something built this, there might be defenses we can use. The ship maneuvered through a narrow opening in the formation's exterior, the crystal creatures following below like a deadly honor guard. The interior chamber was vast, its walls lined with geometric patterns that were definitely not natural formations. These markings, Rajesh said, scanning the walls as they landed, they're not just decorative. They're a form of data storage. Similar to how ancient civilizations used crystalline matrices to store information. Can you decode it? Naomi asked, checking her suit's seals one final time. With time, yes. But we'll need to get closer. Movement detected below the chamber floor, Perseus announced. There appears to be an extensive network of tunnels beneath us. Omar studied his atmospheric readings with growing concern. The air down there is different. Still toxic, but the composition is more stable. Someone's maintaining it. The team descended via a gravity lift, their boots touching down on surfaces that hadn't felt humanoid contact in centuries. The tunnels were a marvel of engineering, their walls embedded with luminescent crystals that provided both light and power to ancient systems that still hummed with life. This technology, Yuki breathed, it's beyond anything in the Council's databases. These crystals aren't just power sources, they're processing nodes. This entire complex is one massive computer. A sudden screech echoed through the tunnels, followed by the sound of crystalline claws on ancient floors. The predators had found a way in. Perseus, seal the upper levels, Naomi ordered. Rajesh, we need those translations now. Working on it, he replied, his fingers dancing across his portable interface. It's a quantum language. Every facet of these crystals contains layers of data. Wait. I'm getting something. This facility, it wasn't built by anyone we know. It's older than the Council itself. A holographic interface suddenly sprang to life before them, its crystalline display showing star maps and data streams that made their eyes hurt to look at. And at the center of it all, a single repeating message that Rajesh slowly translated. Warning, Containment Site Alpha. Species designation, Crystal Weavers. Threat level, Omega. The hidden truth. The revelation hit them like a physical blow. They weren't standing in a research facility or mining operation, they were in a prison. One built to contain something that terrified a civilization advanced enough to write their warnings into the fabric of reality itself. Those creatures up there, Yuki said, her voice barely a whisper, they're not the apex predators. They're the guards. As if in response to her words, the facility systems began to activate, responding to their presence. Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing the history of a war they'd never known existed. The Crystal Weavers, beings of pure energy who had learned to craft physical forms from crystalline matrices, had nearly destroyed their creators before being trapped here. This doesn't make sense, Omar said, studying the environmental data. According to these logs, this atmosphere isn't natural. The entire planet was terraformed to maintain the containment field. The toxic elements aren't a barrier to colonization, they're part of the prison. Naomi's mind raced. And someone's been tampering with it. The mineral concentrations Rajesh found, they're not just valuable, they're critical components of the containment system. Someone's been mining them, weakening the prison. A new alarm blared through the facility. On the displays, red warnings flashed as systems reported cascading failures throughout the containment grid. The mining operations had finally reached a critical threshold. "Perseus," Naomi called, "what's happening up there?" "The crystalline formations are becoming unstable, Doctor. I'm detecting massive energy spikes throughout the surface layer. And the creatures, they're retreating. All of them." Rajesh's translation matrix suddenly cracked another layer of data. "This isn't just a prison, it's a quarantine. The crystal weavers don't just take over bodies, they infect entire ecosystems. They transform planets into massive crystalline computers designed to spread themselves across space." Through the facility's sensors, they watched in horror as the surface crystals began to pulse with interior light. The prison wasn't failing, it was transforming. And they were trapped inside it. "I've identified the mining operation source," Perseus announced. "Transmitting data now. Galaxy Corp's quantum signature is all over the equipment. They've been extracting the containment crystals for use in their new quantum processor line." They didn't just hide this planet's classification, Naomi realized. They've been actively sabotaging a containment system they didn't even understand, all for profit. A crushing sound echoed through the tunnels as the facility began to reshape itself around them. They had minutes, maybe less, before the crystal weavers fully awoke. "Perseus, ready the Artemis," Naomi ordered. "And prepare to transmit everything we've found to every council frequency we can reach. If we can't contain this, we need to at least warn everyone." But as they turned to race for the surface, they realized their path was already changing, the tunnels crystallizing and redirecting. The crystal weavers were awake, and they had no intention of letting their witnesses escape. Survival and strategy. The crystalline walls pulsed with increasing intensity as Naomi and her team raced through the transforming corridors. Every path they took seemed to shift and change, the entire facility restructuring itself like a living organism. "Perseus, we need an exit route," Naomi called through their comm system, her breath fogging her helmet as they ran. "Calculating, Doctor. The facility's reconfiguration makes traditional mapping impossible. However, I'm detecting thermal variations that suggest a path of least resistance." Yuki, who had been frantically analyzing data on her portable scanner, suddenly stopped. "Wait. The crystal weavers, they're not just reshaping the facility, they're trying to communicate." The walls around them erupted in cascading patterns of light, forming complex geometric shapes that shifted and flowed. Rajesh's translation matrix struggled to keep up, but fragments of meaning began to emerge. They're saying we're not so different," Rajesh translated, his voice filled with wonder. "They were trapped here because their creators feared their evolution. Just as the Council fears humanity's potential." A deep resonance filled the chamber, and the crystals began forming into a more organized pattern. Through their combined translation efforts, the team began to understand. The crystal weavers weren't trying to escape, they were trying to warn humanity about a greater threat. Omar's atmospheric sensors suddenly spiked. "The surface atmosphere is changing. The toxic elements, they're not just a prison. They're a shield against something out there. Breaking the code." As the final pieces fell into place, the true horror of their situation became clear. Galaxy Corp hadn't just been mining valuable minerals, they'd been systematically dismantling an ancient defense system. One that had protected this sector of space from an entity that made the crystal weavers seem benign in comparison. "Perseus," Naomi commanded, "show me the long-range scans of this sector." "All of them." The AI complied, projecting a holographic map that made their blood run cold. The seemingly random pattern of dead worlds and astronomical anomalies formed a perfect barrier around something massive lurking in the void between stars. "The crystal weavers," Yuki breathed, "they weren't imprisoned. They were recruited. This entire planet is a fortress." Through their newly established communication, the crystal weavers shared their knowledge. Eons ago, they had volunteered to stand guard against a cosmic horror, a living void that consumed entire civilizations. The toxic atmosphere, the deadly fauna, even their own crystalline forms were weapons in an eternal war. Galaxy Corp's mining operations, Rajesh said, checking his calculations, they've weakened the barrier by 47%. If it fails completely. The facility shuddered as ancient machinery activated. The Crystal Weavers had made their decision. They would evacuate the planet, taking their warning to the stars. But first, they needed to ensure Galaxy Corp couldn't continue their destructive mining. Perseus, Naomi said, her voice firm, prepare the Artemis for immediate departure. And send everything, all of it, to the Council. They need to understand what's really at stake here. As they raced back to their ship, the planet began its final transformation. The Crystal Weavers weren't destroying their prison, they were mobilizing their fortress. The entire world was becoming a weapon. In their final moments on the surface, the team watched as crystalline structures rose like ancient warriors awakening from slumber. The Deathworld wasn't dying, it was evolving. The Artemis broke atmosphere just as the transformation reached its peak. Behind them, the planet blazed with internal light, a beacon of defiance against the darkness between stars. The Crystal Weavers had given humanity their greatest gift, knowledge of the true war, and an alliance that would reshape galactic politics forever. Set course for Council space, Naomi ordered, watching the planet recede behind them. We have a lot of work to do. Perseus's voice held a note of satisfaction as it replied, course set, Doctor. And I've taken the liberty of preparing a rather strongly worded message for Galaxy Corp's board of directors. As they entered quantum space, Naomi allowed herself a small smile. They had come seeking answers about a misclassified planet and found something far more valuable, a truth that would unite humanity with its first true alien allies in the fight against a cosmic horror. The Deathworld behind them wasn't just a prison or a fortress, it was humanity's first line of defense in a war they hadn't even known they were fighting. And thanks to 4 humans who refused to look away from uncomfortable truths, the galaxy would never be the same.